Assalamu alaikum class. Today's topic is typhoid fever. The learning objectives of today's lecture include: we will discuss the global and the national scenario of the disease, and then we will discuss the epidemiological determinants. Moreover, we will cover the clinical features, how the disease is diagnosed, and what are the methods for prevention and control of the disease. Typhoid fever is a systemic infection which is caused mainly by Salmonella typhi. It is found only in man. You may have heard the term enteric fever. The term enteric fever includes both typhoid and the paratyphoid fevers. Typhoid fever is endemic in our country, may occur sporadically, or sometimes epidemic may occur. Typhoid fever occur in all parts of the world where water supply is not safe and sanitation is poor. This disease is uncommon in developed countries because their water supply is safe and sanitation is proper. If it occurs in developed countries, it is imported by the immigrants. However, it is public health issue in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and majority of the cases occur in Asia. You may see in this picture that Pakistan is in high endemicity zone. Typhoid infects roughly 21.6 million people each year globally. It kills 216,000 to 600,000 people each year, and 62% of these occurring are in Asia and 35% are in Africa. Current problem is resistant strain of causative organism which are resistant to all three types of first line antibiotics. These strains have caused outbreaks in Pakistan and in India. These resistant strains cause more severe disease, high rates of complication, and even death. In 2017, 63% of typhoid cases and 70% of typhoid deaths in Pakistan were among children younger than 15 years of age. Pakistan's current extensive drug resistant outbreak of typhoid, which has infected approximately 10,000 people, mostly in Sindh province, is the first ever reported outbreak of typhoid resistant strain to the drug ceftriaxone. As you know already, epidemiological triad consists of agent, host, and environment. So we will go through the agent factor, the host factor, the environmental factor, and moreover the incubation period and mode of transmission of the disease. Salmonella typhi is the major cause. Salmonella paratyphi A and Salmonella paratyphi B are relatively infrequent causes. Salmonella typhi has three main antigen which are named as O, H and VI, and it has a number of phage types, at least 80. If we want to trace the source of epidemic, phage typing has proved a useful epidemiological tool. Salmonella typhi is an intracellular organism and it survives intracellularly in the tissues. Man is the only reservoir of infection. A reservoir can be a case or a carrier. Cases are further divided into mild, severe, and mixed type. A case or a carrier is infectious as long as the bacilli appear in stool or in urine. Carriers are divided into temporary carriers and chronic carriers. Temporary carriers are further divided into incubatory carriers and convalescent carriers. Incubatory carriers are those who are in incubation period of the disease but can infect others. Convalescent carriers excrete bacilli for 6 to 8 weeks, after which the number of bacilli diminish, but by the end of 3 months, up to 4% of cases are still excreting the organism. Persons who excrete the bacilli for more than a year after a clinical attack are called chronic carriers. In chronic carriers, organisms usually persist in gallbladder. Depending upon the portal of exit, carriers are divided into fecal carriers and urinary carriers. A chronic carrier state may be expected to develop in 2 to 5% of the cases. A chronic carrier may excrete the bacilli for several years, either continuously or intermittently. Mary Mellon was a cook in New York in early 1900s. She was known as Typhoid Mary and she gave rise to about 1300 cases in her lifetime, and she died of pneumonia after 26 years in quarantine. Fecal cases are more frequent than the urinary carriers. Urinary carrier state is often associated with some abnormality in the urinary tract. Source of infection may be primary source or the secondary source. Primary source of infection are the feces and urine of cases or carriers. As I told you in last slide, fecal carriers are more frequent than the urinary carriers. Secondary sources include contaminated water, contaminated food, fingers, and flies. Typhoid can occur at any age, but highest incidence is observed in 5 to 19 years of age. After the age of 20, incidence falls, probably due to acquisition of immunity. Most cases are among males than among females. Antibodies may be stimulated by the infection or by the immunization. Antibody to flagellar antigen H is usually higher in immunized individual, while antibody against antigen O is usually higher in patients. Cell-mediated immunity plays a major role in combating the infection because this organism is intracellular organism. Other protective factors include gastric acidity and local intestinal immunity. Because this disease is transmitted from contaminated food or unsafe water. Peak incidence of the disease is reported from July to September. This period coincides with the rainy season and an increase in fly population. Bacilli may survive for over a month in ice cream or in ice. Bacilli survive up to 70 days in soil irrigated with sewage under moist winter conditions. Other social factors include pollution of drinking water, open-air defecation and urination, low standards of food and personal hygiene, and health ignorance. As far as the pathophysiology is concerned, Salmonella typhi entered the body by ingestion of contaminated food or water. It invades small intestine and enters the bloodstream. It is carried by white blood cells in the liver, spleen, and bone marrow, where it multiplies and re-enters the bloodstream. This bacteria invades the gallbladder, biliary system, and the lymphatic tissues of the bowel and multiply in high numbers. Then it passes into the intestinal tract where it can be identified for diagnosis in cultures from the stool. Incubation from the entry of organism in the body, and manifestation of signs and symptoms is usually 10 to 14 days, but it may be as short as 3 days or as long as 3 weeks. It depends upon the dose of the bacilli ingested. This figure shows the dynamics of transmission. Typhoid fever is transmitted by the fecal-oral route or the urine-oral route. This may take place directly through soiled hand contaminated with feces or urine of cases or carriers, or maybe indirectly through contaminated water, contaminated soil, through flies, or contaminated fingers. When food is contaminated, whether raw or cooked, the organism reaches the mouth of well person. Multiple social factors, cultural factors, economic factors may facilitate the transmission of the disease, and these factors will determine the overall quality of life of people. Now we will discuss the signs and symptoms of typhoid fever. In first week, during prodromal stage, there is malaise, headache, cough, and sore throat. These symptoms are often accompanied with abdominal pain and constipation. Fever rises in a step ladder fashion and it reaches a plateau at 7 to 10 days. Patient may suffer from diarrhea, which is pea soup type diarrhea, and it has a specific color and has a specific smell. In the second week, hepatosplenomegaly occur, relative bradycardia is observed. Other signs include rose red spot and urine and stool culture become positive for Salmonella typhi. If there is no complication, the patient condition improves over 7 to 10 days, but serious complications occur in third week if patient is not treated. These serious complications include intestinal hemorrhage and intestinal perforation. Patient is toxic, has apathy and delirium. Other less frequent complications include urinary retention, pneumonia, thrombophlebitis, myocarditis, psychosis, cholecystitis, nephritis, and osteomyelitis. The rash, called rose spots, commonly appear during the second week of the disease. These spots are mainly found on the trunk. They are of pink color and they are in the form of papule 2 to 3 millimeter in diameter and fade on pressure. These spots disappear in 3 to 4 days. Other occasional complications include meningismus. Patient suffers from aches and pains, step-ladder fashion, high-grade fever, and maybe sometimes he feels chest congestion. About 10% of the patient develop complication if they remain untreated. These complications include general complication like toxemia, disseminated intravascular coagulation, and shock. GIT complications include perforation of intestine and intestinal hemorrhage, which occurs usually in third or fourth week of illness. Neurological complications include delirium, psychosis, coma, meningitis, encephalopathy, peripheral neuritis, and deafness. And other complications include myocarditis, endocarditis, pericarditis, glomerulonephritis, osteomyelitis, pneumonia, and hepatitis. Lab diagnosis depends upon isolation of the bacilli. Blood culture is performed in the first week of illness and it is the mainstay of diagnosis. Vidal test is generally performed in the second week and it measures agglutinating antibodies level against O and H antigen. Vidal test has only moderate sensitivity and specificity. Other new tests include Typhi test. Typhi test is carried out for the detection of specific IgM and IgG antibodies. Typhi.m test was recently developed to detect specific IgM antibodies only. Newer test, dipstick test, is carried out to see the binding of Salmonella typhi specific IgM antibodies in the samples to Salmonella typhi lipopolysaccharide antigens. Control of typhoid fever depends upon control of reservoir, improvement of sanitation, and immunization. Control of reservoir depends upon early diagnosis of the cases, and early diagnosis of the cases is done by culture of blood and stool. Notification is done where such notification is mandatory. Patients are isolated till 3 bacteriologically negative stools and urine reports come. Treatment is done by fluoroquinolone. When the organism is fully sensitive to fluoroquinolone, fluoroquinolones are the drug of choice. And if there is multi-drug resistance, cefixime should be given. If there is quinolone resistance, ceftriaxone or azithromycin are the drug of choice. Moreover, injection of hydrocortisone is also given daily for 3 to 5 days if the patient is profoundly toxic. Stool and urine are the sole sources of infection, so disinfection is also done with 5% cresol for at least 2 hours. All soiled clothes and linen are dipped in a solution of 2% chlorine solution and then they are steam sterilized. Follow-up is mandatory and examination of stool and urine should be done for Salmonella typhi for 3 to 4 months after the discharge of the patient and again after 12 months. Control of reservoir include identification of carrier, which is usually done by stool or blood culture. Treatment of carriers must be started and the drug of choice are ampicillin or amoxicillin. They are given together with probenecid for 6 weeks. For chronic carrier, cholecystectomy may be performed. Carriers must be kept under surveillance and health education for promotion of hand washing and other good practices is helpful in controlling the disease. Simple hand hygiene and hand washing for 20 seconds can reduce several cases of typhoid. For control of sanitation, pure drinking water supply is important and every individual must get safe drinking water. Improvement of basic sanitation is an other important parameter for the control of sanitation and we should promote food hygiene. Immunization is another approach for control of typhoid fever. Now, two safe and new anti-typhoid vaccines are available. These vaccines include VI polysaccharide vaccine and TY21A vaccine. Who should receive the typhoid immunization? Typhoid vaccination is for protection of persons who are in direct contact with patient and carriers, and for those persons who are exposed for their occupation and this include medical and paramedical staff, and vaccination should be given in institution where the appropriate hygienic conditions are not present, and in those areas which have high endemic incidence, and for those persons who are traveling to endemic areas, and in case of impending danger of epidemic or in emergencies like flood or earthquake. The VI polysaccharide vaccine is composed of purified VI capsular polysaccharide from Salmonella typhi TY2 strain, and it is administered subcutaneously or intramuscularly. It is stored at 2 to 8 degrees C, and it is recommended for individual 2 or more than 2 years of age. Only one dose is required. Revaccination or booster dose is recommended every 3 years. This vaccine can be administered with other vaccines and it is safe. The TY21A vaccine is orally administered vaccine. It is live attenuated and contains TY2 strain of Salmonella typhi. It is stored at 2 to 8 degrees C. It is given for individuals whose age is 5 or more than 5 years. 3-dose regime is required for this vaccination. The first vaccine is given at day 1, then at day 3, and then at day 5. Every 3 years for people living in endemic area. It may be given simultaneously with the other vaccine, and it has a very low rates of adverse event. There are some limitation of TY21A vaccine. Some antibacterial drugs should be stopped from 3 days before until 3 days after if somebody wants to get vaccinated with TY21A vaccine. This vaccine can be administered to HIV positive patient, but if CD4 is more than 200 per millimeter cube, this vaccine is not recommended in congenital or acquired immunodeficiency, in acute febrile illnesses, and acute intestinal infections. Typhoid conjugate vaccine, briefly called as TCV, can be given to children as young as 6 months of age, and it confers long-term protection against typhoid. Pakistan becomes the first country in the world to introduce the World Health Organization recommended typhoid conjugate vaccine into its routine immunization program. You must have heard about typhoid immunization campaign. Ministry of National Health Services Regulation and Coordination and Punjab Health Authorities immunized more than 12 million children aged 9 months to 15 years old against typhoid using the typhoid conjugate vaccine in Pakistan. My lecture ends here. Today's assignment is enlist different types of carriers of typhoid fever and mention the duration as well. Thank you very much.